Today on Writing Done Right, we want to talk about who should not self-publish their book. Welcome back to Writing Done Right. I am Thomas Morosky, an author and a technology consultant. And today I want to talk a little bit about who should not self-publish. Of course, a couple weeks ago we did talk about who should self-publish. We defined our various terms. I'm going to go through those very, very briefly in this video, but refer to that last video for a more comprehensive examination. And we talked about the self-publishing person in that video as a summary as one who is detail-orientated, a person with the time or the money to put it all together, or someone who needs to make it to the market really fast. Also beneficial is someone who has a big distribution plan or a plan, something into effect to make sure that they will actually get that, have a reason to bring that book to the market. But today we want to talk about who should not self-publish. So go back, definitely look at that video. I'll go ahead and link that here so you can find that more easily. And just briefly, what do we mean by self-publishing? We're not talking about vanity press where you go with some printing company and you print out thousands of copies of your book and fill up your garage and sell 15 of them over your lifetime. Those are the old days of vanity press. That's what we called vanity press. Of course, your traditional publishing is working with the agents and the big publishers. And then there's the indie press, which can be anything from an a la carte to just some way of consulting to get everything together. Some of them will publish those under their name. Some of those will publish those things under your own name and just help you to do it. It just depends on which company you're working with. By self-publishing, though, we're talking about the process of you're mostly hands-on yourself. You're mostly the one that is collecting all of the information. You are putting all the files together. You're working directly with the distributor networks, and you are getting the book exactly the way you want it done without any external input outside of that which you might hire. So with that in mind, we want to talk about who should not self-publish a book, but we're going to talk about some of the things to overcome these in the event you're like, I really want to self-publish, but I might fall under one of those. Let's talk about these principles. Number one, if you are simply in a hurry to get it published, you got this book in you, it's itching you, and you just got to get it out to the market. It's got to be fast. You're going to make too many mistakes. Self-publishing is probably not something you want to walk down that route at this time. You got to slow it down a little bit, unless, of course, how do you overcome this? You got to curb the excitement to do it right, maybe by bringing on other people, maybe by surrounding yourself not with yes people who will look at your work and say, wow, that was great, but people who give you real criticism and things. People who will really truly talk to you about this is a major strength, but you have this major weakness. Someone who will say, ooh, that cover design just is not going to fly. You got to have honest people who want to see your best in mind and people who are going to slow you down. So that's your first person if you're too much in a hurry. The second person who should not self-publish is if you are not focused on details. If you're just like a big picture person, we got the big picture, we slapped some words together, that last kind of chapter, that's okay, but whoever gets to the end of the book anyway, the first couple chapters are really polished, and you just don't pay attention to a lot of those details out there, that is a person you probably don't want to self-publish in that circumstance, because there are a lot of things, and if you have a obvious error or some big problem early on in your book, you're going to turn a lot of people off, and you're probably not going to have the excitement behind your book that you might have if some of those fine details are there. Anybody can go on, for example, speaking as a web developer, which is what I do most of my time, anybody can go in and one-click install WordPress and download a theme from Envato and throw a bunch of content up there. A true hired web developer pays attention to those really small details that you got to look around and say, hey, how do I make this work even better? And that's one of the things that you need to do is you need to pay attention to detail. Now, if you hire a detail person or hire a writing coach, that would be a great option for you to move into that process a little bit better. So that's how you need to get around that. The third person who should not self-publish a book is probably the person that does not have any self-initiative to learn complicated processes. If you want to self-publish a book, but then you find somebody who has published a book before, and you need to lean on them for every little tiny step. If you can't take any initiative to learn anything on your own, if you can't research some of the basics and figure out the steps you need to do, self-publishing probably is not for you, because you will end up driving somebody crazy. You gotta have a little bit of initiative. It's not difficult to go into any favorite search engine, and as a tech guy, I recommend you use something like StartPage or maybe DuckDuckGo or Brave. Don't use Google, but anyway, go to your favorite search engine, whatever it is, and you type in steps to self-publish a book and read 5 different blogs on the thing, and then ask yourself questions and then look up those individual points. So if you bring on and you decide, I want to hire a writing coach or a publishing coach, and that's something you probably should do if this is your first time around, you want to be able to go to that person having researched everything, walk them through your plan and listen to their input to see if that is a good thing. And I was actually doing that with somebody on a call the other night where we, he's just getting ready to get the first book out there, and I was asking a lot of questions and pointing out that, maybe you want to do this instead of that, or pinpoint a few other options. But if you have to ask every single question, if you cannot have any initiative to learn anything on your own, you do not want to self-publish. It is going to be a difficult task for you. There are a lot of steps. You need some independence. Of course, hiring out a coach is a good thing to do. I can offer those services as well. I've done this many times. But if every single day I'm getting, the simplest of basic questions, that's going to produce a conflict in the business relationship. The next person who should not self-publish a book is someone without a sales plan. It's super exciting. You can write your book up really quick and push one click and get it published on KDP, and ooh, I have a book, and then you tell all your family members about the new book that you have. And if that's the extent of your plan because you're just too excited to have a book in the market, you're going to be a failure at the author end of things, the business end of things, the reason. Now, obviously, there are some people I've worked with, they didn't really want to make a profit. All that they were interested in doing is just saying, I want to have something out so my friends and family can get. And if that's you, self-publishing is probably for you in that case. You got to keep it, or you can keep it rather, a little cheaper. It's going to be a little bit easier for you down the road if that is your method. But if your task is actually to work with the public and get your information out there, don't start getting your first book into print until you have a marketing plan to sell that book. So you gotta do that. Now, what could this be? You might be already a good conference speaker and you have a lot of conference engagements and you don't have any book sales. That is a perfect candidate for a self-published book. You get in there, you create your book, and as you create your individual book, then what you're going to do is now you can print them out. You can get a lot lower cost, a lot higher royalties. Now when you go to the conference, you can have a book table in the back you can point people to, and you're gonna sell a lot of books. If that's your sales plan, that's a good sales plan. Also, if you are an influencer, if you are a YouTube or Instagram influencer and you already have a large audience, we're not talking, hey, I got 5 people on here and I'm gonna be an Instagram star. No, go be an Instagram star first. But if you're already successful, fairly successful, you got 50,000 followers or more, and you're like, I gotta find new ways to monetize my platform, self-publishing is a really good option for you. That way you can just announce one day, hey, we've been working secretly on a book. You create 3 months of a buzz. You're constantly feeding little snippets here and there. You're building up that excitement. You're gonna sell thousands of copies right out of the gate if you're doing that right, okay? So that is something, of course, the personal interest is something that some people like to do. Now, if you self-publish a book, remember, self-publishing does mean more royalties per copy sold than going through either traditional or independent routes, and a lot better, more favorable sales terms than if you're doing like a vanity press. So self-publishing is a good thing to do in the industry. It's just, it's got to be done right with the right type of person with the right type of criteria. So we'll wrap this one up here. The next video we will cover in this series in a few weeks is going to be an overview of the files that you need to self-publish a book. So stay tuned for that one in the coming weeks. With that, I hope that this video has helped you to get your writing done right.